I poured a fortune into presents for my sister's children, but their mother accused me of being stingy for not splurging even more. That's when I chose to shatter their world permanently. Now they're pleading with me to quit. From my earliest days, my folks drilled into me that as an adult, I had to support them. So my ambition to earn big bucks was always tied to the idea of lavishing my relatives with treats and affection. I worked diligently in class, covered more than half the rent during my teen years, but I never received even a sincere appreciation from my parents. At my core, I suspect I realized something was off. Yet I yearned for their validation so intensely, I buried it deep inside. Jump ahead to the present. I'm 28, and as last Thanksgiving approached, I was genuinely optimistic. For the first time in several years, I could afford gifts for the whole group. My mom and dad, my sibling Emily, her spouse Jack, and their trio of youngsters. I even picked up duplicates of items so the little ones wouldn't argue over shares, along with extras for any surprise guests. I persuaded myself that this was the ideal way things should be. But then the shock hit. I arrived at my folks' place with packages crammed in my vehicle, and when I rapped on the door, my mother opened it. I anticipated some embrace, or at least a basic greeting would suffice. Instead, she struck me with, "We believe it's wiser if you skip this year's event." I truly thought she was joking, and I began to laugh lightly. But then Emily yelled from the den, "This isn't an occasion for misers, you've turned into a real downer recently." I stood there stunned. My father lingered in the shadows, mute. Mom appeared as if she wished the ground would engulf her. And Emily, she seemed utterly satisfied. I gazed at her emptily as my system cycled through every feeling. Bewilderment, fury, shame, the works. But I merely nodded gradually and stated, "Okay, if that's the consensus," before pivoting and heading to my car solo, encircled by a heap of rejected offerings. They labeled me a miser, a downer. Where did this originate? A terrible instinct overcame me, and I had this persistent suspicion that Emily orchestrated it all, though I couldn't pinpoint the reason. So I did my usual routine in such scenarios, and pondered if I were my own sister's spouse, would I represent to Emily? Would I value myself? My mind immediately overflowed with recollections of assisting with their children's activity costs, contributing to their holiday savings when funds were scarce, and even funding a portion of their initial payment for their home. This gave me a definite response. Absolutely, I'd cherish myself. It was right then that I permitted myself to become furious, like profoundly furious, sufficient to resolve that this wouldn't conclude there and enough to stride back to their entrance. They remained present, my parents murmuring to one another as if shocked I hadn't simply departed, and Emily lounged on the couch browsing Instagram with the sound cranked up. I stepped right inside. What's happening? Why am I abruptly excluded? Emily grinned without glancing from her device. You believe we haven't observed your recent laziness? Even the children realize they've received hardly anything from you lately. Frankly, I'd prefer she had struck me across the cheek instead of spouting that nonsense, and I couldn't resist elevating my tone. Are you serious? I've got hundreds in value of surprises for your offspring in my vehicle, correct? But she cut in. I refused to listen. A couple years back when they arrived, you provided far more. It's truly humiliating. I faced my parents, hoping for the full story. Click the link below and watch it on our channel.